Hey there Babylonians, it's Songs of Rage again, and we're looking with another legendary guide, and today we're looking at this beauty, monstrosity of a gun that is called the Grim Marrow. Now, aesthetics, brilliant, definitely up there, top 5, definitely in my opinion, it's right next to the Golem's Limb, but what we're here for is the stats of the gun. So what it's bringing to the table is the Singularity mod. Now, every time that you kill someone, within a short cooldown, it will spawn a little orb that just floats just above where you just killed the person, and then when you shoot that with the next bit of damage, so whether it be a bullet or someone like another teammate can shoot it, I believe other things can trigger this off as well, it then does a flat amount of damage. Now mine has been leveled up to the fact that it can do 301,000 points of damage whenever you get that. Whenever you trigger that orb to explode, and that is a lot of damage, especially when you consider the fact that it just keeps leveling up as more and more as the gun goes up as well. Now you'll notice from the clip, though I've just slowed down for you, that just came up with 591,000 points of damage, which is obviously a lot more than the 305k that I mentioned, which the gun actually brings out. Now I think that's going to be mainly down to the fact that the gun itself is of a higher tier, or higher level, and obviously as you can see I'm running challenge tier 11 for this, so I think because of that the gear has scaled up and it does a little bit more damage. I don't think there's any other modifiers that are at play, but that is something that I'm going to have to do some testing on. There's a lot of other mods that I want to see that do this kind of thing, and this is definitely going to be one of them that I'm going to have to keep the gun around, just to be able to test out what modifiers we can actually add to guns, to our builds, to our skill trees, etc, etc, to be able to try and get the most out of those anomaly powers. Anyways, you've come here to be able to see why the Grim Marrow is the gun for you, and why it's so interesting and quirky. So the gun itself is an LMG, and what's interesting about those is that it behaves very differently to assault rifles or any other gun that's conventional in this game. It starts off being inaccurate, and then the longer you hold the trigger it starts getting more and more accurate to the point of it actually being able to tackle things at medium to long range, which is great, but when you're already at that distance you're going to be missing a lot of shots to be able to wind that gun up to be able to get it to that position, and I do feel that that's a bit of a shame. Tie that in with the fact that it's got a very low rate of fire, it's just not feasible in that way, and so it has to be treated as if a close to medium range kind of light weapon, and then it kind of does its own thing. It kind of does come into its own, and it becomes pretty good, but don't rely on this to be a massive DPS. I'm using this with blighted rounds, and even so it's only hitting 75k, which is still quite on the low end, especially for this build that I've got, where I'm hitting like anywhere up to 700k crits with a burst rifle, for example. So it doesn't have good damage, it doesn't have good accuracy to start with, and it doesn't have a good fire rate. Apart from the mag size, is there anything that really does save this gun and actually set it apart? Well, aesthetically, it's amazing, it's beautiful, but let's be honest, no one really cares about that, especially when we're going into the higher range stuff. So, what does it have? Well, the mod does save it in that regard. It does actually have a decent DPS as soon as you can get that orb to trigger, but it's getting that orb to trigger in the first place with this gun that's the problem. Like I say, I can get this to work. It is level 48 and it's trying to take on enemies that are level 44 if I remember right, but even so it's not really like chewing through them as much as you would expect that to do. So yes, the orb is brilliant, but the gun just falls down, and I do feel like this mod is better suited on another gun that has a better fire rate, has better ways to get that DPS going, and in that case it would then be a really good option for crowd control, similar to how the Techromancer has the cold snap to be able to freeze enemies, and then if you get the tier 3 mod it will actually be able to detonate bodies. This would work in a similar way. It would be almost like a cheap man's version of the Techromancer. So yeah, in that kind of regard, okay, it's alright, it's acceptable. It's not going to be top tier anytime soon. It needs a buff, and that's genuinely my stance on that. Please don't think I'm hating on the Grim Marrow. I genuinely would love this to be a great gun. I do feel like LMGs have got a bit of a poor rap in this game at the moment. They're not very strong. They do have the suppressing fire, which is great, but I do feel like they are being let down by the fact that damage just can come from so many different places. Burst ARs at the moment are probably some of the strongest guns in this whole game. I believe pump shotguns are also being used to a great extent on the Trickster, but everything else just kind of falls down, and this is just a case in point of that, really. So I do hope that it will get its damage increase. It will get something to be able to help it become that higher tier. All in all, the Grim Marrow is a bit on the weak side, which is a bit unfortunate, but like I said, I would like it to see it get better in time. But for now, it's just a case of I would scrap it for the mod. Is the mod going to be a staple on most of your guns going forward? Probably not, but it is fun to mess around with, and like I said, I'm looking to be able to get some kind of research together to be able to see if there's a way that we can increase the damage on that anomaly, and potentially maybe then it will actually become top tier and be able to clear out a room of ads just by itself. Is it, BabbleOns? That is the Grim Marrow. I hope you've learned something useful. I hope you can take something away from this. I hope you also don't turn your nose up at this gun as well. Like I said, I eventually, hopefully, they will buff some of these legendaries, and I do feel like this is one that's going to deserve it in some time. But yeah, if you've learned something, please feel free to drop a like. Drop us a subscribe as well. Drop yourself a comment in there. I will definitely be going through and reading those. Maybe even suggest another gun that you would love to see in the next few guides. I genuinely will take those on board. But yeah, in that case, keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I will see you on the next guide. Thanks, guys.